Consequence Podcast Network.
This episode brought to you by
Nick
B.
Nick B, fun fact, Nick B is a super sweaty guy, and he wants to move up north where it snows all the time. That's
I'm
what
sure he
says.
appreciates you. Well, okay, he said that, so he's given us consent.
Okay, good. I was very concerned that
This is 100% true Nick B fun fact.
and he sent this to you.
Yes.
Although, look, he told us he was in a boy band. That fact came from him, too. So I don't know what to believe
And that turned
anymore.
out to be a lie.
That's when I learned you can't trust anyone.
It was the day the music died for us, Jen.
It was.
This episode also brought to you by
Ori!
Yeah.
Hey, Ori. So, Ori did the greatest thing for me this week, and I'm so happy. Ori reminded me that I have vacation days at work that I can take.
Oh.
And I took one on Friday, and I'm taking one on Monday, and I'm so excited.
That's
so Thank
awesome.
you so much, Ori.
Welcome to your staycation.
I know, man.
This episode also brought to you by Matt.
Hey, Matt.
You know what, Mikey? Don't even do it if you're not going to put your heart and soul into it.
I know. The Swedes deserve better.
I know. All right. Halloween has been celebrated in Sweden only since the 1990s. And it's
What?
Yeah, I know, right? It's relatively new. And it's only celebrated on Monday, Thursday, which is I'm probably butchering this. It's Maundy. It's Maundy, which is
Maundy Thursday?
Yeah, it's holy. It means Holy Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like an Easter thing, isn't
It's
it?
just before Easter, Jen. Good call. I didn't know you were so
Yeah.
Moundy-minded.
Ew.
I don't know what
I
that
get it
means. I'm so
sometimes.
sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Children and teenagers mainly dress up for fancy parties and ghost parties.
Oh.
They'll light lanterns and venture forth to scare their neighbors and or trick or treat.
That sounds amazing.
It honestly sounds a lot like our Halloween. It's just
It
they do
does.
it on the Thursday before Easter. We now return you to another episode of The Patreonicals.
Karun comes out.
Hey, Karun.
The
Oh,
blue
yeah?
alien. They're up in the moon, you know.
Karun on the moon.
On the moon.
I
Karun
love
on
it.
the moon. He made a arena for them to fight. And he's like,
Right.
all right, guys, you're going to be fighting zombies and a big cartoon thing with a brain from the movie Resident Evil. And it's very meta and you're not going to get it. And they're like, what is he
I
talking
mean, unless
about?
they've seen Resident Evil, Mikey.
They're like,
Yeah.
you're going to be fighting monsters from the week's movies. And they're like, what? What are you talking about?
So what you're saying is in this Patreonicals universe, Karun is a fan, but none of the other ones know what's going on. No one else listens to podcasts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
podcasts are only a moon invention. I think. Like they haven't been introduced to the world yet.
That makes sense.
So all these zombies rush out, and Matthew has a sword, and he starts fighting a bunch of zombies. And then Isaac has his super strength, so he's doing zombies, and he like tastes one because he's still a cannibal, and he's like, I wonder if I can
Yeah.
steal heat. And then he spits it out. He's like, this is even like a real zombie. I can't taste anything. And then like he starts killing some zombies, and Tristram, he gets attacked. He's got his like gun arm. He's doing that, and they're like biting into him, and he's like, I'm already dead.
Because he's a machine.
Yeah,
Is he covered with flesh though?
some, but it's not like edible.
It's like Terminator flesh, Jen.
Yeah, it's Terminator
You can
flesh.
eat that.
Wait, why do you know
Haven't
that?
you guys seen?
Why do you?
No.
Why?
Haven't you guys seen the director's cut?
Was it a light meat cut or a dark meat cut?
Ew.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
So they start killing all the zombies. Eddie, they're all supposed to be giving cover for Eddie because he's using his guinea pigs that he smuggled with him on the moon to try to like get him out of there. So he's
Yeah.
digging a tunnel, and he finds a bunch of electronic stuff. And so he's down there, and he's like, well, I don't know shit about electronics. I've got to get the others to help me. So they go out, and then like basically all the zombies are dead except for the big brain guy. And Kate was like, Tristram, are you ready? And she throws
I know
him-
what's gonna happen, and I'm so excited, Mikey. Yes.
She throws him
I knew
through the creature as he shoots holes through it, and they defeat him. And Karun's like, good job. Next week, you're going to find some more shit, and then have fun dealing with all these bodies. And then Eddie's like, guys, I found some electronic stuff. I need your help. They're always watching us, but only when we fight stuff are they not watching us. And that's how the plot works in this. So
Oh, so they have to be nice to each other.
yeah, they're all
To not
working
be-
together right now. So that's what's happening. They're trying to break out. Matthew is getting really good with the sword, but he had to be saved a couple times because he's not that great. He's not the same as with the Mary Poppins umbrella. But they have to get back to Earth, so they're all banding together.
Why is Karun keeping our heroes captive? Will our crew learn how to work together to figure out the electrical devices, or will Mikey just forget about them? Find out next week on another episode of The
Yeah.
Patreonicals. This episode finally brought to you by
Chris. Hey, Chris. Chris just wants everyone to know that they are loved and that we see you and we hear you and we're here for you.
Yes.
And we say it every week, but you know what? You need to hear it every week.
You do. It's not just Chris who says that kind of stuff now in the group. It's so great. Like, Chris is probably the ringleader of positivity in our group. And then there's a bunch of other people that like are becoming that way. And I love that about our group.
Hold on. I got to run up the wall. The theme music is coming.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
I think there are some frogs that actually like they secrete chemicals that do make you high.
Yeah, frogs, skeet, all over the place.
Oh,
frogs,
screet.
skeet.
Yeah.
Frogs. Welcome to the Horror Virgin, everyone. I'm Jen.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your horror virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but you guys make me watch them. And this week, you guys made me watch Resident Evil.
That's right.
Honestly, okay, so I had never seen this movie before. It came out in 2002. I'm assuming both of you guys have seen it. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
And Mikey,
right,
now is when you would respond.
Okay, well, yes, I have also seen. I saw it in theaters. Let me tell you about Resident Evil, Todd. Have you played the Resident Evil video games?
I have played some, but I was too scared. I had to stop.
Throw all that knowledge away. It's not needed.
Okay,
here.
good, because I only made it like 5 minutes in before I
All right.
rage quit the game.
The Resident Evil movie franchise is as crazy and insane and terrible as the Patreonicals,
Oh,
That's what I've heard.
with like a similar plot line. Like movie 4 or 5, Mila Jovovich gets special superpowers. She loses them like 2 movies later, and then like the world goes
Yeah.
post-apocalyptic at one point. This is the most sane, logical movie in the Resident Evil movie franchise.
then I'm on board to do the rest. Like, we should
Yeah,
shotgun
man.
them, because this movie was rad. Well, Jen, what did you think about it when you saw it, when you originally saw it?
I remember thinking, like, when I originally saw it, and I don't remember the first time I saw it. I didn't see it in theaters. I probably rented it. And I thought it was pretty good. I thought, I was like, okay, this is fun. Maybe a little dumb. And then I watched it recently, like maybe a year or 2 ago, just to watch something. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is a lot more fun than I remembered. Like, I enjoyed it a lot more
Yeah.
than I thought I was going to. And then I watched it yesterday and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I really like it. I don't think it's really great.
Are good even.
I mean, I don't know. There's some things I like about it, but I mean, it feels like playing a video game to me. And I say that
Yeah.
as somebody who has a lot of anxiety about playing video games, so I don't. And it really just feels like going to different levels throughout the movie. You know, like here's the monster you're fighting. It's like set piece to set piece to set piece, and I really liked that. This is like what I think of when I think of like fun comfort movie horror. And I know we've got a lot of listeners who like this is their comfort movie franchise.
Oh, yeah.
This is also the only one of the entire franchise I've seen.
Oh, yeah?
So-
Okay, cool.
Oh, guys, I would dare say this is the worst one.
Oh, really? I mean, awesome, because I thought this movie was rad.
Because this one still tries to be like real and serious.
Yeah.
The rest of them become Mikey movies fairly quickly. You see some shades of Mikey here.
Oh, yeah. But the next one's become like 50 Shades of Mikey, is what you're saying.
Like, okay, the start of the next movie is the guy that they wheel out at the end becomes this giant monster
Yeah.
that Mila Jovovich tries to save the second movie in Raccoon City. Like, it's so ridiculous. It's so
Yeah.
So
ridiculous.
I love this movie. This movie is
Yeah?
super rad. Yeah. Like, and Jen, to bring up something you said last week about Aliens, the pacing in Aliens is much slower than this. And I even wrote
Yes.
in my notes, like 10 minutes into this movie, I was like, this pacing is breakneck and I'm here for it. Because there's no downtime. Shit hits the fan immediately and we're on a
Right.
ride the whole time. And I really like that
Right.
about it.
That's because the dialogue is definitely the worst part of the movie. So the more that they can not have people talk, the better this movie is. Like, all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And I don't think Mila Jovovich, or however you say her name, is like the best actress in the world. She's serviceable and she's really good at like action stuff. So I get why Leeloo Dallas is in this movie. Like, she's great. I'm not complaining about her skills. You know, she's
Yeah.
great in this movie. And I honestly feel like this movie is like the tutorial in the video game, and like what you actually want to see is like the like when she walks out of the hive and like cocks that shotgun, I'm like, yes! Let's
Yes,
go.
me too.
So
That's the
second
rest of
one
the
doesn't-
franchise.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can't wait. So like, I'm so excited.
And she stays with all of them. She stays with all the movies. So
She
that's
does.
what makes
Good.
the franchise, is like you follow this
Good.
one character through the Patreonical-esque world of zombie Resident Evil Earth.
I'm on board for it. Yeah.
The that's interesting that you're saying about the pacing, because I agree. The only problem I have with it is I feel like it's so evenly paced all the way through that the ending doesn't feel like a huge climax to me. You know, it almost feels like, oh, this is the level we end on, you know? And I mean, I don't really care that much.
Yeah, and I think that's why it felt like the tutorial for me.
Right.
Yeah, because it's the same over and over and over. There's a new bad guy for that level. And I feel like once they kill the bad guy for this movie, which is the horrible CGI-looking monster, then we go outside and I'm like, oh, yes. Now we're going to get some fun.
Seeing it in theaters was frustrating because it ends like that and you're like, there's no way they're going to make a sequel to this movie.
But I realized that A Quiet Place rips off this movie because A Quiet Place ends exactly the same, although it's much more scary, and I'm honestly not really looking forward to seeing the second one. I'm really looking forward to seeing the second one of this. I mean, I realize that's why you want to see it, Jen, and I get it. That man can rock a sweater. I'm just saying that for me, I'm not super looking forward to it.
Besides a shotgun, is there really anything that makes the ending similar?
Well, that it's a woman holding the shotgun.
Yeah, I think it's very similar.
Yeah, she wakes up naked with things all over her in a medical hospital and with the shotgun. I mean, it's not...
Mikey, she has more than just things all over her. She has 2 Post-it notes stuck to her front and back.
And a super awesome haircut that I am going to be trying.
You know what? We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just get into this fucking movie because we got shit to talk about. Yeah, let's do it.
So we see this text on the screen and it's like...
Jade, let me stop you. And not only do they put the text on the screen, they read it to you just in case you're an idiot.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah. They call that voiceover, Mikey.
Well, no, I mean, like, they're like, it pops on the screen, the white writing. You're like, okay, this is like a movie. It starts like this. And then the guy's like, so at the 21st century, in case you can't read.
A friend of mine who worked at a movie theater when I was in high school, I was in line at the concession stand and there was someone in front of me. And that person said, hey, how much is a combo? And my friend, whose name I will not drop, turned around, looked at the sign above him and said, follow along as I read aloud. Combo. $6.50. And I was like, oh,
that reminds me of a story of sometimes when I will ask you things and you'll just send me the link to Google.
I feel like I haven't done that in a long time.
You haven't, but I have started doing it to other people.
It is worth it. It is worth it. But Jen, will you read us what this person says at the beginning?
Yes, I will. Will somebody make something go?
Do you want me to drop in the music behind it?
You don't have to, but that would be funny. But that music sets the tone for it.
It
and I'm
really
like, all
does,
right,
yeah.
I'm on board for some fun, dumb horror.
Oh, yeah.
So at the beginning of the 21st century, the Umbrella Corporation had become the largest commercial entity in the United States. 9 of 10 homes, I'm sorry, I shouldn't make this so sinister. 9 of 10 homes contain its products. Political and financial interests felt everywhere. World's leading supplier of medical supplies and healthcare. This seems ominous. Profits generated by military technology, genetic experimentation, and viral weaponry. Unknown even to its employees. It's basically a gigantic corporation, which is one of the things that I really like about this movie. I feel like there's a social message there.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I wanted the metaphor of the movie to be, is like late stage capitalism does not care for anyone, even its own employees. It cares for profits and nothing else. And it has no responsibility to the environment, to its citizens, to its employees, anybody. And that's not really what the movie's about.
I see what you guys want. I mean, I've played the video games too and watched these movies. Basically, it's just like, we need really big evil things. So evil corporation.
And listen, I don't need that to enjoy the movie. I just felt like that would have been a cool place to go. I don't feel like it goes there. Would have been cool. Yeah. And I still like the movie without it.
And honestly, like, if I didn't see so much evidence of this in the world right now, I don't know if I would have liked that element as much, you know? I'd just been like, oh, evil corporation. Okay, so basically, evil corporation.
Yeah.
Lying to its employees. It's got like little grunts doing like work that they don't understand.
Yeah, like it's such a big corporation that, you know, one group is working on something and another group is working on something else, and they don't talk at all, but what they're working on will have direct impacts together, right? So like no one knows exactly what everyone else is doing because it's so big.
It's just a multi-conglomerate. I'm not saying that you guys are wrong. I'm just saying, like, in the Hive, those people all know they're working on like disease and like disease warfare.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, they also make buses.
Well, and they also make like healthcare and computers. Like that's the front for what it really is, which is like viral weaponry. So we see a green box zooming toward us.
Yeah, I literally just wrote in my notes, it's a scientist doing science? ? Yeah.
Right, but it's cool science. It's
is.
Like spirally bright green science and like the science arms that aren't human arms. It's really cool. And we don't know who it is yet.
I do like that in this world, the best like design they could figure out for a needle is a like cylindrical opposite, like double helix type.
That's straight from the games. That's straight
I'm
from the
sure
games.
it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
It's
yeah.
science. That's how science works, guys. Have you not seen Jurassic Park?
Dino DNA.
My least favorite part of the movie is that the virus is blue and the cure is green. It should totally have been the opposite.
Look, you don't want to mix those up.
Yeah.
Okay?
The green should have been bad and blue should have been the cure.
But it's like she's putting it into a little like bio suitcase, and there's blue vials and there's green vials and there's an injector gun, and then somebody takes it out in a suitcase, and then somebody throws one of the vials across the floor and smashes it as they close the door so we don't see who it was.
It's the same person. It's just one person.
Is it?
They explain that at the end, Jen.
Yeah, except okay, we'll get there. This is one of those things where I was like,
You're like explaining this like 5 people broke into that lab. Like, this is the same person. This is all the
well,
one
no,
person.
okay. The way I thought it was that, okay, these are spoilers. We'll get there. Right. So then someone, or maybe 5 someones, throws one of the vials. Because you know what? We don't know, guys, okay?
At this point, we don't. You know what, Jen? You're right. And I appreciate you keeping the illusion of we don't know what's happening going on. I like that.
Exactly. Hey.
Coat. It's the same coat.
Yeah, Mikey, they might be wearing a uniform that involves that coat. You don't know yet.
Exactly.
5
Yeah.
people didn't bump into the guy and spill his coffee.
Oh, yeah. So somebody does bump into a guy. Anyways, but the fumes start like fuming through the air, and then they go into
Right.
the air vent. And then we see a man drinking coffee, and then somebody, a mysterious stranger or 5 mysterious strangers, bump into him and spill his coffee all over him, and he's mad. And this starts what might be one of my favorite parts of the movie because I think it's really scary and really cool.
And he's also the best actor in the movie. He's like, oh, come on, man.
I'm sorry, does he jump up and wall kick a dog?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
like,
not
No,
acting.
that's the bar for good acting.
Not
okay?
acting.
I mean, in this movie, it does pass as acting. I'm siding with
It
Jen.
does.
Okay.
Case dismissed.
Yeah, you tell that to Michelle Rodriguez.
These actors are so bad. They were like, we've got to invent a way to make the characters just explain away their confused faces. So let's just give amnesia so they don't talk and they just make confused looks at the camera the whole movie.
I mean, but they're hot, so
Yeah.
you know. Confuse away. I didn't know anybody's name except for Mila Jovovich.
I don't know her name in the movie. Yeah.
It's Alice.
I called Lilu Dallas wife, and I called Mark Antony from Rome husband.
I called him husband too.
Thank you.
Yes.
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 Because I didn't know any of their names.
They didn't let him talk until the end.
Well, he's the bad guy. Or
so-
sorry, he's these 5 guys that Jen's been talking about the whole time.
exactly. Hey,
He's got a restaurant.
And honestly, 5 Guys burgers are the superior fast food
Yeah.
burger.
anyway, so our 5 guys bump into Coffee Man. And so now there are a bunch of people in the elevators and something goes wrong. Somebody sees the broken vial from the lab. And so the lab techs are like talking to each other. There's an alarm going off. People are saying, oh, it's just a fire drill. It's fine. And then people are getting stuck in these like glass rooms that are like sealed off.
Which is like a really nonchalant security alarm for a viral underground research facility. Like, nah, it's just a fire alarm. It happens all the time.
Well, and I mean, it's an alarm for people who don't give a shit about their employees.
Yeah.
You know, that their response is going to be just kill all the employees if something gets out, you know?
Absolutely. Like, okay, so like what drove me insane is they're sealed in that room and then the sprinkler system goes off, right?
Uh-huh.
And then those people
Yeah.
all just drown.
They do. I know.
Like, that's horrible.
It really is.
Do you know how long it would take for you to drown in a room that size from like a sprinkler? It took them hours to die.
It would take a long time for the room to fill up, but the drowning would probably take an average amount of time that drowning takes.
Well, yeah, but you would have that creeping, impending death. Like, that would be
Yes,
horrible.
and they're like screaming at the monitors. They're like, "There's no fire.
Yeah.
Stop! Like, turn this off." It is, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this first part is really effective.
It's intense, yeah.
They were already dead, man. They had the virus.
But there's an antidote. Like, just smash the antidote. That'll go through. Then it's
Those 5 guys stole all the antidote.
Oh, those 5 guys are assholes. Anyways, but so like they're sealed in this room and it's filling with water and somebody's like trying to chop. And then there are other people who they're in another room that gets sealed and then like gas sprinklers go off and
Yeah.
they just gas these people to death immediately.
Honestly, I'd rather go that way than like drown
That's
slowly.
a way better
Yeah.
way to be murdered
Yeah.
by a computer.
and then we go back to our elevator. This part is awesome and probably the scariest moment in the movie for me.
Awesome is the wrong word, Jen. They like pry the door open a little bit, right? Because it's stuck.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
So they're in the no, you're fine. So they're in the elevator and they're like, fuck. And I think it gets stuck. And then they hear another elevator falling
Yes.
and they hear everybody scream.
It's
and they're
like this.
fuck. Right. Yeah. And then, yeah. And then no more screaming because they're all dead. And then their elevator starts falling. And then the brakes, which I know exist because of speed.
Yes.
The brakes stop the elevator and they're like, okay. So then, Todd, what you were saying, they pry the elevator apart, and there's only like a tiny little square, like the size of like a computer.
Just like the size of a head.
Well, yeah. And
So here's where, like, why would you stick your head through this, like, one little square? Because you obviously can't fit your body through it.
Well, she was going to try and squeeze out.
yeah, she was. So they're on this elevator. It's stuck right now, but the phone lines are dead. They know it's going to eventually drop. So they're trying to get out, and they pry the elevators open just a little bit. And so she's going to try to squeeze through this opening. She's like, oh, I'm tiny, I can fit. And there's no like thought of maybe I'll get cut in half. I guess because this movie is like the first time I've really seen it. But it's terrifying. So she's got like her head and her arm out, I think. And she's like, I'm stuck, push me. And then it starts to like, the elevator starts to move and it like slams and it stops like 2 inches from the ground.
Yes.
Like she's staring at the ground.
That scared me so much, Jen. It was so
I
scary.
know.
And then
She should have died there. That would have been the scariest death.
No, dude, I think it's even scarier
Me
because then
too.
she's like, pull me back in. And it's like what you were saying about the drowning. It's like now she knows this shit is going to happen and
knows
she's
the
got to
stakes.
get back
Yeah.
in. Exactly. Whereas I guess if you're in the elevator, you're like, okay, at least this is doing something proactive.
Well, then she rolls around and looks up.
Yeah, she does. And I think she's just trying to get back in, but it cuts her head off.
yeah, because it goes up and then she hits the ceiling. It doesn't show it, thank goodness. And it hits the
Yeah.
ceiling, and I'm assuming she's decapitated. We never see evidence of that, but
Yes.
She didn't make it out. Do you know what her favorite shampoo is?
Head and shoulders.
Yes, it is.
yeah, she really lost her head in this situation. She did not keep her
Yeah,
cool.
not her shoulders, though. She got her shoulders back in. So, phew. I do like this part of the movie. It's one of my favorite parts because I think it's just so tense and effective and it really sets the tone for the stakes of the movie. Although I do think this is one of the least goofy parts of the movie,
Oh, I
think-
agree there. 100%.
Because we're not really fighting monsters anymore.
I think this is the most like, part of the movie for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing is like, because you're bracing yourself for it happening
Yes.
and you're like, phew, she's safe. And it gives you that glimmer of hope.
It's the let off. Yeah.
There's a quality to this movie that's very like glossy and very video game where it's like the stakes don't seem really real, and that's part of why I can have so much fun watching it.
Yeah.
And this is really the only part of the movie where I don't really feel as much of that, where like this is a video game simulation,
I do feel like this movie does have a lot of jump scares that would normally scare
Yes.
me a lot more if the tone was less video gamey, right?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
liked this movie because of that tone and atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it wasn't that scary, even though it's definitely not a 1 for me on the scary scale, which we'll get to. But there were a lot of jump scares. Like if this was a very like Hereditary tone type movie, I'd have lost my shit watching this.
Yeah, and there are a lot of jump scares and a lot of really scary imagery, but
Yeah.
there's also this like artificial quality
Yes.
to everything.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so fun too,
Yeah.
because like the characters are really flat, and as much as I really love some of the characters, like they don't have huge arcs.
God,
you know?
Mikey.
Oh, jeez.
They don't have arcs at all.
The characters are really one note.
There you go.
And I mean, I love some of these characters, but like they don't really have narrative arcs. And I mean, I'm okay with that because I just want to see them like do some cool action shit.
Absolutely.
But this part of the movie feels separate from that.
Yes.
It
You know?
does.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why it's effectively scary for me.
Same.
And that whole montage
now-
is cut with like the cameras looking at people, which explained later
Yes,
on. It's
yeah.
the computers doing it.
I really did like the cameras in this because not only does it like track their face, it'll also track the weapons they're holding later on
Yeah.
in the movie. I really also like that through the security camera system and the computer system, they do a great job of showing you where the people are in the hive. 'Cause
Yes.
I feel like it could be very confusing as to where they are just because all the hallways sort of look the same and all
Yeah.
of that. But I feel like that system does a very good job of placing them in the hive. So I love that about the camera and computer system.
Yeah. All right. So we got Mila Jovovich who wakes up in the shower.
Laying down in the shit like she had passed out or something.
Right. Yeah. And we find out pretty quickly that she got like the house has some kind of like defense system where it like gasses the members of the house and they like get amnesia or something.
Yeah.
So she's woken up in this shower in this gigantic mansion. She doesn't know what's going on. There's like bruises and shit on her shoulders. And then she like is looking through her drawers and she sees like normal clothes and then like a ton of guns.
And that scares her. She's like, oh shit, why do I have guns here?
Exactly. This isn't a normal house. This is the Mr. and Mrs. Smith house.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And then she puts on an amazing outfit. And this might be one of my favorite outfits in all of horror because it is so cool. It's like this red dress that's like really high cut, but she's got these shorts on underneath it and these boots that are flat. It's so awesome.
I honestly thought it was just like a shirt.
I mean, it might be, but the tails of it go down to the side.
Oh, like to her
I think
ankle.
past her knees.
Yeah, it's like all the way down to the
So
floor.
fucking cool.
When she woke up and was like walking through her apartment, I was like, wow, this lady is super rich because it's like an opulent mansion.
Yes, and it's like one of those houses, like clearly no one lives here. This is just like house porn.
Like a staged home.
It's very staged. It's very like devoid of personality, although we do see a wedding picture of her and some devastatingly handsome guy.
Oh, yeah. I love this guy,
The
too.
Thomas Jane knockoff.
I think this guy was on that show, that Kevin Bacon murder show.
Honestly, the first time I ever saw him was in the HBO series Rome. He was Mark Anthony. And he's a great actor. Like, I like him a lot.
Okay, let's talk about this. This is a weird job. So they're in a mansion that is just the whole purpose of the mansion is to be a side entrance for the Hive.
Yes.
So they're paying not only to have a mansion built on top of it instead of like a shed, they're also paying 2 highly skilled security, like special forces agents to pretend to be married and live there forever. Like, what's the salary of that job? Like, what is the purpose? Like, that is a very convoluted way to just have a side door.
Yeah, it is.
It's fun.
That's what happens when you have that kind of money, Mikey.
That's true.
Which you should know since you're Mr. 1%.
Yeah, Mikey, what is your apartment hiding the entrance to?
I pay a married couple who are fake married in the building next to me to guard the back entrance to my condo.
Funny that you wouldn't just pay somebody to fake marry you.
That would be commitment.
That's too
Jen.
much.
He
Yeah.
can't
Yes,
even
you're
do
right,
that.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so as she's walking out, and it's such a cool mansion, like she's seeing an ominous wind, and then she goes inside, and somebody grabs her and pulls her inside, and we don't see who it quite is yet because a bunch of like commandos like smash through the windows and like grab them and like handcuff the guy who just grabbed her, and they're like asking her, report soldier, and she's like, what the fuck are you
talking about? Yeah. She has no idea. Yeah.
And that's when we find out that the house probably activated its primary defense and that she was one of the like security operatives because they're like, okay, that's who these people are.
And the guy they handcuff, they're like about to kill him. And he's like, no, I work for you guys. I just got transferred here. Please don't kill me. Which we find out he doesn't, or at least I don't think he does. But he
does technically, but they're right to be suspicious.
Yeah. But anyway, so they keep him handcuffed for like an hour in this movie.
For half of the movie.
My favorite part of this scene is that her wedding ring says property of Umbrella Corporation.
Yeah. It's very for appearances.
Yes.
But so then they take their masks off and we find out one of them is Michelle Rodriguez, and I had forgotten she was in this, and I was like,
I had forgotten she existed, but yeah.
Well, I didn't recognize her for a minute because she wasn't driving a car and yelling.
Exactly, right?
So now they're leaving the house. They're going down a big stairwell, and they're in a room with a bunch of biohazard stuff.
This is literally the moment I wrote in my notes, what the fuck is going on? Like right after the Michelle Rodriguez reveal, I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but I am on board for it.
Because you don't really have to stop too much and like pick it apart. You're
Well,
you're like, oh, they're in that room. Oh, there's something behind them. Oh,
I'll say that's because there's nothing to pick apart.
Yeah, no one's talking.
I know. It's honestly, it's great. It's one of those movies you can just shovel your face full of popcorn in the theater and just love, you know?
Right.
I feel like we're doing final thoughts right now, but yeah.
I know. All right. So anyways, they're going down. There's a lot of biohazard stuff, and we see a train with an umbrella symbol on it.
Fun fact, Biohazard is what they call Resident Evil in Japan.
That's what the translation of the game is, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Do you guys know why it's called Resident Evil?
No.
Because of the mansion.
Yeah.
Because it's a residence.
Well, all right.
And home evil sound weird. So they're on a train and the power's down, and Michelle Rodriguez is amazing. So she jumps down to try to fix it, and she hears some slithering, and then one of her asshole teammates tries to jump scare her. And then the power's back on, and they're getting on a train, and they like she's saying the door is sealed shut or something, and then another guy tries to mansplain open it and then gets a body dropped on him.
Jen, I will say he does open it, and this to me is a little door shadowing to what happens a little bit later when the man opens the door and then gets super fucked, but we'll gets screwed by his hubris.
Is
but
it the
we'll
same
talk about
guy?
that when we get there. I think it
Hot
is the
take.
same guy.
I think Michelle Rodriguez knew there was a man back there and sensed it and didn't want it to fall on her. So she was like, oh.
And she definitely loosened it.
Yeah, she she did. Anyways. But so there's a body that falls out, but it's not a dead body. It's the guy from the wedding picture. And this is when she notices that her ring says property of Umbrella Corporation. And she's kind of starting to have some memories of who this guy is.
Yeah, we see like flashes of her memory, right? And then she gets it all back.
At the very end.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And this is when I realized that there was another woman on this team that was not Michelle Rodriguez, but just looked exactly like her. Because I wrote, Michelle asked him his name. Oh, wait, except it's not Michelle, it's someone else. So they're very like nameless.
And if you are listed in the credits as not Michelle Rodriguez, you know you're not lasting as long as Michelle Rodriguez.
Exactly. Like the version of Michelle Rodriguez that gets killed second. That is her what she's titled.
There's the Commando Commander, and he's a really
yeah, the captain is what I called him.
yeah. He's a good actor. He's relatively famous. And
I
then,
think
like,
he's a voice actor
yeah.
too, because I recognize that voice. He has a great voice.
and then you have Michelle Rodriguez and the other woman, and then you have like three of the most generic looking white guys.
Yep.
And I
called one hacker.
I could not tell the difference physically between any of them the whole time.
The dude that survives and gets taken right at the end when they get up to the house,
Yeah.
I called him handcuff guy the entire movie.
I called him gel hair.
I just called him Guy. I'm like, all right, that guy is went over here, and then
Yeah.
that guy. I'm like, oh no,
Yeah,
guy he got killed when he opened the door, but other guy's still alive.
Yeah, so to keep them straight, let's call him either handcuff guy or gel hair guy.
I mean, I've written gel hair throughout my notes, but I'm okay with either.
Honestly, he does look more like he was in 98 Degrees or Backstreet Boys. Yeah.
I mean, it looks like you would wound yourself if you put your hand on his hair.
Yeah, his hair is up to 11.
I think his character name was actually JR.
It's Matt. That's his character name. But JD is a character.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So then they get off the train, and this is when like the Terminator Vision camera is like assessing them all.
Yeah.
And they're in like another big warehouse room.
This is where they drop a lot of exposition about Umbrella, about the Hive, and I really like the way they do this. It does look very 2002 as far as graphics are concerned, but it places...
Yeah, because they bring a visual aid.
Yeah, it is like a visual aid.
The captain's like, oh, bring up the visual aid. We'll give them the whole presentation.
Yeah, I love it. They're like, hey, bring up the PowerPoint. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And he gets out his laser pointer and he's like, this is the house, right? We went into the basement of the house, got on this train, and like the whole time he's talking about it, you see it like animated for you. And it shows truly how deep they are underground, how big the Hive is, and it like really gives you a place in space, which I like a lot.
I do too. Yeah, especially since it's so like it's all underground. There's no like visual markers.
It's all like gray walls and labs. Like without that, I would think all of this is on the same level.
Right, exactly, yeah. But so they're saying there are like lots of technicians and scientists. What they're working on is classified, and kind of just talking about what the Hive is. Talking about how the Hive has its own defense mechanisms. That's what released the nerve gas into the house.
Yeah, this is the exposition dump.
It is. This is the biggest exposition dump.
You know what? I like it. I'm
Me
down
too.
for it.
They literally go like action, 2 minutes of exposition, action, 2 minutes of exposition, action, and I like that.
Yeah.
Which is like what it feels like when you get like you clear a level and then you get the information you need for the next level, you know, which I like.
Me too.
So now they're in the Hive, and it's pretty much, or they've reached the Hive and they're in a giant room of the Hive, and it's like basically pitch black.
Oh yeah, and then the guy goes in there with like the night vision scope or whatever, and then he turns the lights on. And then they all sort of walk in and they start to talk a little bit. And then the handcuff guy or hair gel guy or Backstreet Boy or whatever we're going to call him, like turns and looks up at the air vent. And then we get this like really slow zoom in on the air vent. And we hear what sounds like little insect or like critters in the air vent or whatever, which I don't know if that ever really pays off. Like, do you know?
It does not.
Do you know what that was supposed to be? Like maybe that was the dogs running around. I don't know. Like, I don't think that ever pays off.
Yeah. One of the things that I read is that when you open or turn on something, it affects something somewhere else in the game world. That's like an element of the Resident Evil game. And so like we see that later, like once they open that hallway, it opens all the dog cages.
Yes.
So it could be that it was that. It's like them turning the light on activated or open, unleashed something. But yeah, it doesn't really pay off because I didn't really notice it. But I did notice that there's a lot of mirrors in this room, which I think is going to be significant. For a fun fact I have, they get to the elevator vestibule area and they see that the elevator has crashed. They're like, oh, I guess we're taking the stairs. Which, why would you trust an elevator at this point?
Yeah.
I know. But they see like out the windows, there's like a big
cityscape.
Yeah, cityscape, which I think is supposed to be San Francisco, which they're like, okay, it makes it easier to work underground. And that's when I started thinking like, oh, that would suck to like never see the sunlight.
I like that too. I thought that was a nice little touch. Umbrella is not all bad, guys. They do sort of think about their employees on some level.
It's like the Matrix, you know?
Yeah.
Is this when the Red Queen comes up?
They have to go down. The expedition dump is like, we have to go down and talk to the computer, which is an AI who controls all
She's
the
the Red
security.
Queen.
She's called the Red Queen.
And that she went homicidal and killed everyone down there and they don't know why.
Yes.
But that outside interference is a possibility. And there was supposed to be a White Queen element in this movie that they cut out. Yeah, that the White Queen was what was the outside interference. I
Interesting.
think.
We learned that the Red Queen sort of just runs the entire facility, right?
Because her job is to protect the facility, not the people inside the facility.
Right, and to protect people outside the facility from what they're doing inside the facility.
I mean, the Red Queen is kind of the good guy.
She kind of is. And I think that's where, like, if you dug deeper into this, there's like a moral judgment thing here, but the moral judgment is being made by someone who's not human. But yeah, she's basically just saying, yeah, I'm just trying to protect everyone. It just happens that you're stuck inside here. So my priority is not protecting you.
Right.
You know? So you're fucked. But we got to go down to the bottom and get it. This is when she gets her badass leather jacket from husband. She also has flashes of hooking up with him. So we know that they may have been fake married, but
they were not fake boning. Yeah.
Well, exactly, yeah. But if you're that hot and you're already married,
I know, right?
And you got that mansion to hook up with all over the
Proximity
place.
is a factor.
It is.
Dude.
You don't want to ever date someone who's geographically undesirable. I get it.
I'm talking to you, East Nashville.
I don't cross the river for anybody. Oh, wait. But this is where they see the body in the water sort of hit the window, right? In the lab.
Yeah. So they're walking through this hallway and they're seeing like the flooded rooms. And this is when they're talking about how Red Queen just killed everybody.
Right. And then we see a body sort of hit the glass. And that scared me because it's played like a jump scare. And then they talk about, oh, yeah, the Red Queen killed everybody. And then they decide to sort of take the stairs down to her like room or whatever. And then as they leave this scene, the eyes and her putting her hand on the glass, I literally like jumped. Like that scared me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering how much some of these got. And okay, so there are a lot of jump scares. This is when I think of empty jump scares. This is the movie.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
And I don't say that in a bad way because it's fun. It's like a release of the pressure. And then the stakes are so low for me emotionally that I'm like, okay, yeah, that was a fun jump scare. And then I'm back on the whatever train of the movie, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing, and it really works in this movie.
It does.
Quite a few of them.
Yeah. And this is when they go to what I called dry ice storage because it's like there's that layer of like smoke around their ankles.
Yeah.
But it really is where they've been making the CGI monsters we see later.
I called it the Order of the Phoenix Towers with tubes on the floor.
Well, and we find out that on the schematics, this is actually called Dining Hall B, but it's clearly not a dining hall. They call
why
it
would
that.
you want to eat here? Unless you're the meal.
Oh, dun 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 dun.
Dining Hall Z. Okay, so the Price is Right theme music is not quite as ominous as I think you're trying to make it.
Bum, 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 bum.
Then she
Awesome.
died.
That's a good note. That's a good note. That's a good note. But they call it Dining Hall B, so if you're looking at a schematic of this area, you're like, oh, that's where they eat. You wouldn't think they're actually creating like super soldier idiot bot things that'll mutate anytime they eat somebody and become stronger. Like, but that's what's in there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they don't even say that. They're like, well, there are failed first early experiments, so we just kept them for some reason.
Yeah, Yeah, kept him in case we ever needed to fuck some shit up,
And they do.
So they're looking for survivors. Mila's walking around and she sees this medical experiment thing, and it's like a cell with like a T on it or something. And it's like we don't see very much of it, but we see like a brain and some stuff hooked up to it.
Yeah.
And then the captain's there and he's saying, like, I don't think you want to remember what happened down here because it's all fucked up.
Yeah. And this is where they get down to the Red Queen's lair.
They do. Yeah. Hacker is trying to get them in. Hacker was one of the guys who always worked with computers, what I called him. I don't know what his name
I think
is.
his name is Kaplan, because he's the guy who actually makes it until almost the very end. So they open the door to the hallway to the room the Red Queen is in. And the captain starts to walk down there with two other guys who are carrying what essentially is an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse or whatever, so they can fry the Red Queen's computer cells or whatever.
Right. It sends like an electrical charge or something. I just called it a duffel bag weapon or something.
Yeah, and I like when they're walking down this hallway, all the lights in the hallway come on.
And it's so cool. This is one of my favorite parts.
It is cool, yeah. And then Kaplan or whatever his name says, the lights are automated, nothing to worry about. And I thought to myself,
oh, yeah.
The whole hive is automated, and the automation killed everybody. Like, that does not make me feel any better. And I was justified in feeling that way because everyone in the hallway dies.
Calm down, Matt. I mean, automated with like the clapper.
Oh, okay. Well, I
phew.
wish they had known that, because when the lasers start coming, dude, the lady gets her head cut off, which was insane. And then
it's so cool.
This is one of my favorite scenes, even though it was really disgusting.
I like
but,
this scene.
The first laser stays at the same height, right? And then the second laser then jumps up while the guy jumps up and cuts him in half. But the captain does this parkour move and gets above it, but it cuts his knife in half. And then when the third one comes and they're trying to open the door, I was like, surely they're not going to kill the captain. So they're trying to open the door, and the third one comes, and I was like, oh, just jump over it again. You'll be fine.
Right.
And then it turns into a net. I was like, oh, there's no way you're getting past that.
Oh, dude. And it was
so cool.
It's like, fuck you, jumping.
It's super cool. But then when they open the door and they pick up the duffel bag, I'm like, why isn't the duffel bag in pieces?
Oh, yeah, it would have been. But who cares, Mikey? We're going to yada past that.
Cares?
You're thinking too much about Resident Evil. What you should be doing is thinking about how cool that was.
Because it was so cool.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most famous scenes in the movie.
Oh, I'm
too.
sure. Yeah.
And I also like that this was like a moment, like when it becomes the web, it's like, yeah, we've seen all those other movies too. We know you've seen it. Yeah, fuck you. You're not getting away from this laser. And then they just expand it. It's so cool.
Yeah. Which is, I think, sort of like you take a trope and then you expand it and make it cooler. And that's what I like about it. Yeah.
Exactly.
It doesn't bother me that other people have done it before because you elevated it, right?
Exactly.
And that's why I like to
too.
call this sort of movie elevated horror.
That sound you hear is all of the angry emails we're getting.
Clearly, I'm joking. Please don't write.
Right.
I'm getting a bunch of angry tweets right now
for using the words elevated horror and to using them to apply to Resident
Evil. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm clearly joking. So this is when they're talking because husband is I'm out. I'm not going down that hallway. That's stupid. We literally just watched 3 people get drawn and quartered in there.
Well, and then the hacker guy's like, no, I fixed it.
Yeah.
Hacker's like, I got to complete the mission. He hit Control-Alt-Delete, so he reset
He's like, it'll be fine, guys. It's a Windows. I completely got it. I got into the DOS-based root canal, and we're going to be fine. Some of those things I said
and
were computer-based.
And he says checkmate, so you have to believe it, right?
Yeah. And then the computer guy grabs the EMP thing and starts to walk down the hallway, and then Leeloo Dallas follows him down there.
And he's got this computer thing on his wrist, too. Hacker does, which I thought was really cool.
I just love the way 2002 saw the future. Right?
I know. Although, wouldn't it be cool? It's like an Apple Watch, just 5,000 times bigger.
Yeah.
But so they go into the middle of the hive, and it's Hacker Guy and Alice. He does a beep-bop thing on his wrist, and a giant cylinder thing comes up in the middle, and then there's a red holograph that comes up.
A hologram. A holograph is something different. Yeah.
What's a holograph?
A holograph doesn't exist.
Isn't that how Miley Cyrus went on tour with a hologram?
No, that's how Tupac still tours.
Oh, okay. So anyways, a red hologram comes up, and it's a girl, and this is the avatar of the Red Queen.
Yes.
And she was modeled after the head programmer's daughter, and I think this girl might actually be in the second movie.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's a different girl. A girl is in the second one.
Yes, but like this character, I
yes,
think.
yes.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to keep them from shutting her down. And she's saying, you're all going to die down here. And she's got this British accent. And it's just really, I think this is really effective and creepy because she's very like flat when she's just saying, these are the facts and you're going to die. And
I like that though.
She does explain like, hey, the thing got in the air vents, I had to kill everybody.
Yes, she explains that the virus is, I forget the word she uses for it, but it can adapt to any situation. So it can be transmitted through the blood, the air, or water. And she gives it like a name. I'm sure it's a real medical thing. I didn't pay attention. But that's why she had to kill everybody, because someone released the T virus, and technically everyone was or was going to be exposed. So to mitigate risk, kill everyone in the hive.
Right. But Hacker Guy sets the charge off at the duffel bag and it turns everything off in the hive.
EMP restarts the power.
Yeah, which means that it unlocks a lot of shit that we're going to start seeing. Yeah.
It's basically like in Jurassic Park when they restart the power.
It is. Yeah, and everything's safe now. Hooray.
Except we don't get a really cool hold on to your butts moment.
I know,
love
man.
that moment. Dude, Samuel Jackson's
Nobody in this
amazing.
movie has enough charisma to pull that off.
No, or enough cigarette butt.
That's true. But so back in the room, because they have split up, and Michelle Rodriguez and Handcuff Man and JD, I think, they're still back in the room, and they find a survivor who looks totally normal, right, guys?
Until she goes all bitey and bites the shit out of Michelle's hand. Yeah.
And she's like, what the fuck? And then a soldier shoots her in the knee and then has to shoot her in the other knee, and she's zombie mad now, and he fires again. And then Michelle Rodriguez like fucking mows her down with a machine gun.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, bitch isn't standing down now.
Well, that's because the soldier goes, I can't believe I shot her 5 times and she was still standing. And I was like, Loomis would have done one more.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
Michelle Rodriguez goes, well, she's not standing now. And I was like, yeah. Michelle knows what's up.
She does, man.
But she
And-
wanders off, so she is standing again.
Well, yeah, because they don't know that they're zombies. In fact, I don't think zombies exist in this world because when they explain it, they don't say the word zombie, and you definitely would if they exist, right?
Right,
But they
yeah.
don't know that to kill them, you have to shoot them in the head. They don't know that yet.
They don't know that yet, although they're going to find out.
But
yeah.
if you're shooting something and it's not dying, you would eventually be like, let me try the head.
Yeah,
I think
you
so.
would.
Which they never do in this coming scene where they waste all their ammunition for the whole movie.
And so they're kind of comparing notes, and they tell Michelle Rodriguez that the rest of the team isn't coming. Everybody got fucking killed. You know, it's sad.
Yeah.
And that this blood on the floor doesn't belong to humans because blood wouldn't operate this way after somebody was dead.
Well, yeah, because it's coagulated. Like when you die, your blood stops being pumped, and because your body cools, your blood turns into like what is like sort of Jello-y, but not as delicious.
Coagulates are also used when you like have a cut, and that's how you stop bleeding. They coagulates around the wound and all that stuff.
Right.
So they explain the blood on the ground is already coagulated. That would not happen if that person was alive.
Right. Yeah.
And this is when you're like, oh, and I literally wrote, like, we're 25 minutes in the movie. It's like, holy shit, is this a zombie movie? I had no
Nice.
idea that this was a zombie movie until this point.
Well, okay, and so this is when we hear dragging footsteps.
Yes.
And there's a guy, this is a part that freaked me out too. There's
Yeah.
a guy walking on his sideways foot dragging an axe.
Yes.
And then we start to see lots of undead zombies. Some of them have suits on, some of them are wearing maintenance suits, and like some of them have their faces eaten off, and it's so cool.
It is very cool.
The biter woman is back. This reminded me a lot of playing the game. Like I only got to a couple of levels where all of the zombies were attacking me because it freaked me out a lot. And I
Same.
kept like looking at the ceiling.
Yeah, I rage quit around this point in the game.
I know. I was like, where's my gun? Which button controls my gun?
But yeah, so they're like completely surrounded by zombies, like creeping in on them. And they, of course, start to open fire. They have guns, so they sort of have the upper hand, right? Except for the guy
Right.
whose hands are cuffed behind his back.
But he's like underneath something, right?
Well, yeah, he starts to run away and whatnot, and just to get away because he has no way to defend himself. And he has the keys, but he drops them down a grate, and he goes to get them, and he auto-magically is able to get his fingers all the way down to pick them up. Like, that has to be the most shallow grate ever.
Todd, if I can't talk about the duffel bag being cut up, you can't talk about this.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. But he does get the key, unlock himself, and then run off to where they're sort of extricating themselves from dry ice storage, whatever room this is. But while they're shooting all the zombies, they're also shooting all of the containers full of the CGI monsters, and that's what allows one of them to get out, and a bunch of them just explode, I guess, killing the monsters there.
Can we talk? I mean, I
Right.
will say that the CGI monsters did not age well, and it basically
No.
looks like they're fighting monsters that came from Roger Rabbit's homeworld.
Oh, dude,
it does.
that movie's scary.
They're not very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very like early 2000s CGI. The only one that really bothers me is the monster at the end.
Yeah. That's
Like these zombies don't really bother me that much because I think one thing it does do well is it just feels like chaotic, and so I'm not really focusing on one zombie because there's like 9 other zombies about to attack me.
And the practical effects of the zombies are real good. I wish like the CGI monster had been more practical, but it probably would have been way more expensive.
and you could see in the dog scenes that like some of the dog stuff's practical, and I thought that looked really good.
oh,
Actually,
yeah.
most of it is practical. Okay, so when I was reading about this, the only really heavy CGI effects are when he's got his cut on his arm and the little things are sticking out of it at the end.
Yeah.
Most of it is practical. I'm sure they probably enhanced some of it, but like they made 2 of those big monsters, the brain tug monsters.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
And I don't know if it's like stop motion or something. Yeah, but I think a lot of it is practical. I just don't think it looks very good.
That monster looks terrible.
It
Yeah,
looks like bad CGI. But it
Yeah.
looks like 2002 CGI, right? Because it's
Right.
early days of CGI at this point.
But also, like, I don't really care because I'm like,
Yeah, it also doesn't matter to me because the whole thing is ridiculous and I'm on board for it, so who cares?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Mila Jovovich has a flashback of herself in a cemetery. And we're going to see this flashback like unfolding throughout the movie.
like 90 times. Oh my
Well,
god.
because she's remembering more and more about it. I get it. And
she is.
Oh my god.
I'm down for it.
listen, I am on board for the trope of plot-driven remembering things under amnesia. Like, I'm on board
I
for that.
hate that trope.
Me
A
too.
lot of movies use it. I don't care.
They only add 1 second to each time they replay this scene. So it's like it's like so excruciating by the end.
Oh, I'm down.
I
for
have
it.
access to all the security codes. I have access to all the security codes and I can help you get out. And then
Yeah.
20 minutes
Yeah.
later, I have access to all the security codes and I can help you get out. And I'm a good guy.
Yeah, I want you to do
But
something
that's
for
like
me.
the video game. It's like there's another artifact unlocked and you get more of that information.
Absolutely, Jen.
You know? This is when we find out that Mila was trying to get the virus for someone.
Ah, yes,
Don't
that's right.
know who. Then I just wrote even more badass zombie shit.
Yeah, because there's a big shootout scene, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so husband goes up to distract him because they're trying to get out of this room or something and gives him the code and he's kind of a dick about it. See how easy that was? Me. And then he opens it and he's immediately got a billion zombies on him. And I wrote, it's really effective and terrifying how they do it because I was really into it at this part.
Same.
And that's when the giant CGI monster escapes.
And we see how truly ridiculous it looks, and yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So now they're trapped and we're hearing a bunch of banging. And this is when we find out when they cut the power, they unlocked these doors
Yeah.
and let the dogs out.
Yeah, I didn't realize the Red Queen was a member of the Baja Men, but she definitely let them dogs out.
The Red Queen did not
did.
let the dogs out. Generic Caucasian soldiers and Mila Jovovich let the dogs out.
Oh, because in that whole zombie fight badass shit that we just talked about, JD gets bit by zombies.
Yeah,
And he comes back and he tries to attack Michelle Rodriguez and she has to,
put him down.
she has to kill him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she goes, JD just means just die. And then she shoots him.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then shoots herself for making that terrible joke.
No, and here's the thing. That may be actual dialogue. You can't tell.
It could be.
Because the dialogue in this movie is that bad. I'm going to challenge you all to go back and watch that scene and see
Right.
if that's actual dialogue. The dog fighting scene I hated. And I'll just say this outright. I do not like when movies kill dogs. It is like the
Yeah, but-
saddest thing ever.
These were undead zombie dogs.
I know. It just makes me sad. But it's a cool scene. It's effectively done. I think Mila Jovovich is a badass. Like, it's awesome.
She is.
I just don't like
Okay.
it when they kill dogs.
Right, because this is one of the iconic scenes from the movie too, or
Yeah.
at least the kick is. And I also think these dogs are in the game.
They are. Mhm.
Yeah, they definitely are.
We don't see the actual dogs dying a lot of times. Like we see her shooting and it's implied that we're killing them, which I think they probably
There's one that you see.
There is one. Yeah, and I think that's probably to avoid having a scene where they kill like 20 dogs, you know.
The dogs are zombies, everyone.
They're zombie dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we also saw them in cages. Like they were either being experimented on or being mistreated in some
Yeah,
way.
they were test subjects in my mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is another level of like they're mistreating these dogs. Yeah. But what's really cool is that fucking kick. I just wish she wasn't kicking a dog in the face. So she runs up and like on the wall, like Matrix style kicks this dog. And it's fucking amazing. And I love her. And I think she is so cool. And this is one of my favorite parts of the movie.
It is. It's so cool. Yeah. And I
It
just,
is really cool.
I just keep telling myself that she kicked a stuffed animal dog in that shot.
Right.
And then I'm fine with it, you know?
She didn't. It's a movie, guys. She didn't actually kick a dog. It's a movie about zombie dogs trying to kill her, and she killed the zombie dogs.
I mean, yeah, you're right.
But how did the duffel bag not get cut into a million pieces?
Exactly.
It is funny how like we each have our things where we're like, yeah, that drove me crazy, and the other one's like, I don't give a shit about that. Zombies.
I
you
know, right?
And then she has a flashback like, oh yeah, I do know kung fu.
Right, exactly. Oh, I'm a multi-level operative, and I'm the best in every way.
It's so Jason Bourne. It's amazing. You know, it's like that
Yeah.
moment when he realizes he has all these skills.
And so then she goes into a room, but there's a zombie right behind her. Oh no! And then she kills that zombie man by kicking him into a big glass shelf, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's the flashback of, oh, hey, I know how to defend myself. Oh. And then but she didn't get all the zombie dogs. There's one more. So she's trying to get the guy's gun.
This was so tense.
It was, yes, because we don't know if this guy is dead. Like, he's an undead zombie, so maybe she just half killed him, you know?
Right.
She's trying to slowly get to his gun, and then there's another zombie dog, and so she gets back out the door, and the dog is still there.
Yeah, she shoots like 5 dogs and then kicks one.
She shoots all the dogs, and then she realizes she doesn't have any more ammo, so she's got to use the best ammo she has, which is her amazing self.
Jen, she realizes that her body is the ultimate weapon.
It
And
is.
then she wall run, kicks a dog to death. Yeah.
And it's so cool.
It is
minus
very
the
cool.
kicks a dog to death part.
She gets away.
And then we reset to go to the next level. And
Right. And that reset is pretty much we follow the handcuff guy, the Backstreet Boy guy, right?
Yes.
And he's looking for something like on like a desk. And then this woman, kind of zombie woman, comes up behind him and tries to bite him. And he's like not
Right.
able to kill her, not because he doesn't have the strength to, but because he can't in his mind bear to
know.
kill whoever this is that he clearly knows.
And there's like a weird sexual tension about it.
No, there's no sexual tension, Mikey. That's his sister. No, no, none of that. Because Mila quickly knocks the sexual tension out of the room and she kills it by hitting it in the head.
But this is when we realized that she was the person in the cemetery that Mila Jovovich was talking to.
Yes.
I don't think she tells Matt that
She
yet.
does not.
Because now we find out that Matt is a secret like protester of what this evil company is doing.
Yeah, they're trying to get evidence that they're bad, that they're evil, right? And he got his
Right.
sister to go in on the inside because he's been so public about being anti-Umbrella Corp that they would never
Right.
hire him. So they hired his sister, and then she became the woman on the inside and was going to steal the virus and then bring the virus out, but couldn't because she didn't have the codes to get in and out of the hive. And that's why
Yeah.
she got Mila to help her out. But Jen, Mila does not tell him that she was
Right.
in on it. And I think that's maybe because she doesn't quite know the level at which she was in on it.
Yeah, because she's amnesiac.
So they don't know they know we know they know yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Exactly.
there's levels of amnesia knowledge.
And as a viewer, you don't care. So you're like,
You
let's just
don't.
move on to the next thing.
And this is where we find out that in an hour from now in movie time is when the blast doors close forever and they're trapped in the hive.
Which I didn't see
Right.
at the beginning ever. I never see them when they talk about it at the beginning of the movie. It's just Michelle Rodriguez pops up. She's like, remember those blast doors we passed? They're closing in an hour. And I'm like, what blast doors? I don't even know if they're
Right.
in the movie.
They're not. We never see those blast doors. We're going to come back to this because I have thoughts
Because
on it.
I was like, am I losing it? Like, I don't
No,
think they
not
ever
at
talked
all.
about that.
and I don't even know what you're talking about. So yeah,
But they have introduced a ticking door clock.
they have. Yes.
Yes.
Ticking door lock.
Ooh, Mikey, I like it. Doesn't the Red Queen get turned on during this time?
Whoa. That's a child.
No. I mean, like, she's a computer program, Mikey. No. I'm going to have the computer version of Chris Hansen come, like,
Have a seat over there.
Kaplan, thank you for joining us here. Have a seat over here.
Yeah. You're all going to jail. All right. So now elevator doors opening again. Husband's arm gets stuck or something, but they're surrounded and they can't get out of the queen's chamber. And husband says they should just wait, but they can't because these blast doors that apparently just were invented for the sake of the movie exist.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I thought they broke in through the blast doors to get into the train.
They took the train to get to the hive.
But Mikey, you are right. The blast doors are back at the mansion.
The mansion.
Yeah. So they have to get
Okay.
from where they are now in the Hive to the mansion in 1 hour.
This is when they're talking to the Red Queen. She reboots herself, and they're basically threatening her, like, we will shut you down again unless you help us get out of here. Because the Red Queen, this is when she's talking about what the T-virus is. Reanimates the body, basically zombies, although nobody in this movie says zombies.
Right.
And it's got a need to feed. This is when she tells them how to kill them.
Yeah, and also she also explains that Michelle is dead. There's
Right,
no way
exactly.
Michelle's going to survive. Well, we don't know there's an antivirus yet, right? So
Right.
if you're bit, you're dead. It can be transmitted through air, through water, through blood. And Michelle is just like, oh, great.
Right, exactly. But she takes it, though. She's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm still going to help you guys.
And
'cause
then the Red
she's-
Queen's like, you guys should really just die because we need to save the world and not let this out.
Yeah, stop being so
Exactly.
selfish.
Which is that moral relativism I'm talking about that is really interesting, but they don't really spend any time on it, and I'm fine with that.
They just move on. Everybody just move on. Any plot points or anything, we move on. Like the brother-sister thing is like, we talked about it longer than it takes place in the movie.
Exactly. And I'm okay. And it's like one of those scenes that happens like in the middle, like while you're resetting the levels. It's so cool.
Yeah.
All right. So they're in like a sewer grate tunnel something. And so they're getting, like, husband walks up to one of the grates, and then there are a million zombies that try to like grab him. This is when there are some awesome fighting, and Mila Jovovich is amazing.
Yeah.
And she's like breaking their neck with one of her thighs, and she's jumped up in the air to do it, and it's so cool. And then she breaks somebody else's arm.
Yeah, because she doesn't have a gun because, Jen, she doesn't need a gun.
And they use most of their ammunition in the dining hall.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Most of the guns are dead, which I like that about the movie. Like, okay, they waste all their ammo. It's not a movie where like, okay, we have more ammo.
Or they have unlimited
Right.
ammo. Like, yeah, they
Oh,
clearly
right.
have finite resources, which is, I like.
They're all like down to pistols and like, they're like, oh man,
Yeah.
we waste all that ammo.
All right, but so now Michelle, this is when we see JD as a zombie, and she has to shoot him.
Because they're in the, I don't know, the sewers underneath the Hive or whatever, and they're trying to climb up onto the pipes that are above the zombies,
Yes.
so the zombies can't get them. And JD gets bit, gets turned, and Michelle, before she gets up, shoots him, and it looks like she's about to get overtaken by zombies. But I guess they pull her up in time, but you don't see that part of it. You just see them cut to her up there, squeezing
Right.
the blood out of her hand onto other zombies. And she's like, you like the way I taste? And I was like,
Right.
that's a very weird cut. I don't know what's happening here at all.
I know. Yeah, aren't you mad now and want to eat me even more?
I know, right? You're developing a taste for Michelle.
Haha.
Yeah, I like where all this is going. Mhm.
Ooh.
Gross.
But so they're in a position of safety right now, and they're watching all the zombies underneath. And I really like this part. I thought it was cool. They're like, we're safe for this moment. We're not overall safe, but it gives them a chance to kind of talk.
I mean, they are sort of precariously walking across these like smaller pipes that are above the zombies. And then most of
Yeah.
them get across to the area they're trying to get to, but Mila and Kaplan don't, and the pipes fall down, and Mila is closer to where they need to go, so she gets up there, but Kaplan gets grabbed, and I'm like, oh, Kaplan's dead. But Kaplan like knocks 9 or 10 zombies off of him and then
Yeah.
climbs up another pipe. So he's not on their level of the zombies anymore. And they're like, hey, let's help you. We'll help you. We'll help you. And he's like emptying his ammo out, and he's like checking to see how many bullets he has. He only has one bullet. So he's like,
Yeah.
oh, damn it. You think he's going to kill himself?
No, he goes, lucky me. And I was like, oh, he's going to kill himself.
I know. I thought that too. And then
Yeah.
he shoots the zombie that's like climbing up at him. And he's telling them
Right.
just to leave. He's like, I'm dead. Just leave. And they do. And you're
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. Kaplan's dead, but he's not.
Yeah, and I liked this moment too, because like he's saying, you're gonna have to work for your next meal.
Yeah.
Well, also, he's been bit, so he knows he's infected too. So Mila and husband now are coming up through a giant grate in the floor. Gel hair and Michelle are still kicking, but Michelle isn't doing very well, and she's starting to like puke. And they see in a dead body, they see the T-virus monster, but we don't really get a clear look.
That honestly is just foreshadowing of the final boss they do throughout the video game, Jen.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they show the CGI monster just climbing in a different section of the Hive. It's not
Yeah.
close to where they are. It's just so the movie can be like, hey, remember this scary monster? We're not going to use
Right.
it yet, but it's still
It's
out there.
coming.
It's
Yeah.
coming. Hey, and I'm down for it.
Yeah, it's monster
yeah.
shadowing to a T virus. It's
Ooh.
monster
Ah.
shadowing.
You may say.
Nailed it.
yeah.
I love that. Okay. But is this where the wife has the flashbacks and she remembers that there's also an antidote to the virus?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Mhm. And so she sees the flashback of them like
Testing it on pigs, right?
testing on a white rabbit. Yes.
Oh, I
and
thought
then
it was
she
a pig.
says,
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
How
it's
could
a
you
white
body
rabbit.
shame that rabbit.
My bad. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm not trying to body shame.
What do you think pigs are?
Listen, I will accept the fact that I was wrong about that, but that is what I wrote
No
in
need
my
to
notes.
pig shame.
Yeah, guys, it auto corrected from rabbit to pig. That's what it was.
It did. From white rabbit to pig.
That's
yeah,
what it
that
was.
happens
It
to
definitely
me.
was an autocorrect mistake. That's my bad.
But she sees a flashback of what happened, and she sees the blue virus and the green virus, which we now know is the antivirus.
Right.
So she turns around and just stares at Gel Hair, and they have this weird moment where she's like, blue for good, green for bad, or something.
That's my favorite line of the movie.
But I mean, to your point, yeah, green is synonymous with good,
Right.
which is the antivirus. Right.
Yeah, because blue is the virus and green is the antivirus in this movie. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But she realizes, okay, there's a cure, so we can save Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, and then she sort of breaks into a room that is like half flooded with water, and they're tearing it apart looking for the antivirus, and it's not there.
Yeah, and this is when she tells Matt, Gel Hair, that she was trying to steal the virus and she was the contact. Because Matt had earlier said, my sister made a contact with someone and I never found out who it was. Dun, dun. I'm sorry. Dun, dun, ba, dun, 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 dun.
Come on down! You're the next contestant on Find the Cure.
Nice, well done. And I think she tells Matt that at this point.
She does, yeah. What happens next is the husband is revealed that he knew about their plot to steal the virus and expose the company. He was the five guys that went down there and stole the virus and then released the virus and caused everyone down there to die by the Red Queen, right?
But
Exactly.
what we find out soon is that he's Five Guys, Burgers, and Lies.
Oh, you've been sitting on that one, Mikey.
I love it, Mikey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he is.
He's revealed himself to not just be a double agent, he's a quintuple agent.
and a double patty agent.
Ooh.
Anyway,
Nice.
so he made it as far as the train, and that's where the gas knocked him out. So just like Mila got knocked out in the shower post-coital, he got knocked out in the train.
Of course, because he was trying to escape.
Exactly, and that's where the antidote is.
And that he's the guy who knocked over the coffee.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
The biggest reveal.
I know. He was hiding in plain sight, guys.
Well, who's going to pay for the dry cleaning?
Who would have thought in that whole office building of people in white shirts and ties that the guy wearing a black motorcycle jacket is the one who is the one doing all the bad things?
Imagine it.
I know, reckless and not caring, because if he gets coffee on him, it's not going to be nearly as noticeable.
No, you just wipe it off. Leather's the best.
Exactly.
But anyway, so he then leaves and locks them in that half flooded room, and he goes out to the train.
Well, he reveals that he was going to sell it, not give it to them. He was going to sell it for money.
Right.
He wasn't
Right.
part of their plan. He had double crossed them, like Jen said, quadruple crossed, and he was stealing the virus to sell for money.
And if you remember from before, the note that she saw when she first woke up, it says, "Today is the day your dreams come true." He wrote that to her because he was about to become super, super rich, and I guess move them to an even bigger mansion. I don't understand what the end game of that is. Like, your life is already super sweet if you're living there.
Exactly, especially if you want to be together. Like, you're married already. You don't have to pay for a wedding now.
I know, right?
yeah, but you guys, the knockout gas is really inconvenient.
Well, that's true. And that mansion is full of lies.
It is. They're watching on the monitor now as he walks out to the train to get the antidote because he's been bit too. So he needs to inject himself with the antidote.
He does,
And as he
yes.
starts to do that, this is where the CGI monster sort of clumsily kills him.
And I was like, oh, look, a cartoon is murdering that real life man.
Because I think what he says is, like, he didn't realize that there were outside defenses that would have been able to stop him, which I think is where the White Queen was supposed to come into play.
Yes.
And I read a synopsis that said that the Red Queen unleashed this giant tongue monster to stop him from escaping.
Oh, she explains that to them after he gets killed right now.
Yes.
So I guess technically it all makes sense, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on paper, sure.
Exactly.
Well, so he's killed and he gets chewed up by this monster a little bit.
And kind of zombified, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Red Queen goes to Alice and her group and is like, hey. And Alice was like, did you let that monster out to kill us? And she's like, yeah, you guys got me.
Yeah.
Guilty.
But that monster-
Yeah, totally did.
They caught her Red Queen handed.
She's like, I really don't want to let this virus out. It could really cause a lot of bad things out.
Yeah,
in the,
I'm the
out in
only
world.
responsible character
Right.
in this movie.
And then she's like,
I will let you out.
Yeah.
Right.
If you kill Michelle Rodriguez,
Yes,
because
that's
what
she's
it is.
infected. And they're like, fuck, the antidote is on the other side of the door. So can't we just let her out? I mean, I get the logic.
Can I just
but
say this really quick? And I know I'm digging way too much into this because it's Resident Evil. But the moment the Red Queen tells them, like 30 minutes before where we are right now, the Red Queen tells them the pathogen that starts the T virus is airborne. It's in blood and it can be transferred through water. And they are then carrying Michelle Rodriguez around like she's like arm candy. And like if
Right.
she sneezes, if she like does anything, she's going to get them infected. Like the second you
Right.
tell me it's airborne, I'm running away from that person. I'm not killing that
Right.
person, but I am leaving them. Sorry, Mikey.
And what's interesting to me is why we're saying that right now too, where we're all like super cautious about like being around people that might be sick. Because I don't know if I didn't pick that up. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking, yes, she got infected like 9 hours ago, and
Yeah.
haven't you all? And you've been breathing air that infected a bunch of other people too. So yeah, they're saying like, yes, she's sick right now, but like you're keeping us from getting the antidote.
Right.
So if you're gonna open that door, let us go open the door. We'll just let Michelle Rodriguez stay here. Let's go get the antivirus and we'll inject her, and then everything's fine,
yeah.
right?
And then the Red Queen's like, did y'all forget that I unleashed a giant monster in that room? Like, that's not going to happen.
That's true. And then the giant monster reminds them too by like slamming up against the
Yeah.
door
Yes.
at that point too. Yeah.
But then generic other white guy turns the Red Queen off.
Yes.
Kaplan, who we thought had died, turned the Red Queen off because he wouldn't open the door for her or whatever. And then he
Right.
opens the door into where the train room is. And then they go in there, they get on the train, and this is where she injects Michelle with the antidote. She injects Kaplan with the antidote. And then they start to head back towards the mansion, but they haven't dealt with the final boss of this movie.
Yeah.
They have not.
So-
They just thought they had the
Right.
giant tongue monster.
And it has mutated because when it fed on new DNA, it mutates and becomes stronger, which I thought
Which
was
I think
pretty
is
cool.
really cool.
Yeah, right? I was on board
Yeah.
for that.
But it looks like it's like a brain and like face muscles and a gigantic tongue.
Which is what I describe myself on my dating profile.
Well, so I'm a little afraid to tell you guys what this thing is called.
It's
Like,
called the tongue puncher.
It's called the liquor.
No,
what I
is it?
found.
And it does tongue punch her quite a few times in this movie.
It does. And I think this is the part that I don't like about the movie because I think this monster is just very gross. So Michelle has an is she dead fake out where Mila is like, she looks like she's dead, and then she jumps up and she's like, don't take my gun. I'm not ready to die
Yeah, she's
yet.
like, I'm not dead yet.
And she's like, I could kiss you.
I like Mila Jovovich and Michelle Rodriguez together in this movie. I think they're
Yeah, in my mind, they were like friends in real life, right? Mila didn't
Yeah.
know immediately, but they were friends in real life. That seems plausible to me.
That's character depth and like conversations that we're not prepared to have in this movie.
You know what? Sorry. You know what, Mikey? I didn't mean to offend you. I apologize. I get.
This is actually the most they've talked to each other in the whole film.
Yeah. So like they're like moving, right? The train it's going as fast
Okay.
as you can. Kaplan's driving the thing, and the CGI monster jumps onto the train and then
Yeah.
opens the driver's side door of the train and then bites Kaplan, who just came back to life in the movie, and then throws
That's
him out of
right.
the train. So Kaplan's donezo, right?
He got decaplinated.
Yes. I love it. And then the CGI monster has not had enough, and he starts ripping the doors and stuff off the passenger compartment of the train. And that's where spiky haired dude is, Michelle Rodriguez, and Mila is. And they start fighting the CGI monster, but also Michelle has turned.
She has, yeah. And so Gel Hair has to shoot Michelle, and it's really sad.
It is very sad, yeah.
And there's a moment where Alice looks and is like, oh.
But she dies and falls into a button that apparently.
well, okay,
She
yeah.
does.
So, like, what
So
happened?
this is where
Yeah.
the thing has gotten tongue stabbed into the floor.
Yeah, and there's like a compartment under the train that opens for no reason, but it does
It's an
pay
airlock.
off for this. I know, but why would
They're
you
like-
ever need that? The train doesn't like lift up and then you put cargo under it and then you lift down. Like that makes no sense.
In case you got to get rid of a liquor. It's like Mr. Burns' train where he just has that trap door
Yeah.
that takes you.
It is a trap door in a train for no reason other than to kill passengers. But Mila
Right.
says, open the door. And then that's when Spiky Hair shoots Michelle and she hits the trap door button and then it opens the monster falls onto the third rail with his tongue still stuck into the grate thing. And it gets dragged and electrocuted. And then the fire comes up from underneath it.
Right.
It's actually a pretty cool shot. But that's how they kill the liquor.
If the tongue thing wasn't a factor, I think I would like it a lot more.
Yeah. But now that the monster is dead, the train is back at the mansion, and you look at one of their watches, and it says like 20 seconds left, and they start running upstairs. And Mikey, to your point, you don't see blast doors close. You see them running upstairs and then CGI shadow closing like the light from the Hive is being shut off. But it's not, you never see a blast door at all.
Yeah,
is that what that is?
Yes.
I saw it getting darker.
Yes.
I was like, what the hell? Is it night now?
No, it's not. Because when they go up on the main floor, it's clearly daytime still.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? Okay, well, that makes sense, I guess.
Sure.
You know what? I'll
It
allow
makes as much sense as everything else. Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So now and she's kind of getting tired, and they're like, got that survivorness. Now maybe we'll hook up, but also I'm feeling pretty bad. And we realize that he's gotten some deep scratches in his arm, and that he's kind of effective. And she's like, okay, not so fast. I got an antivirus right here, thankfully, but not so fast because a bunch of men in hazmat suits jump in and like take them all out. She's trying to fight him. The doctor's like, okay, we'll take you to the Nemesis program. And like little tentacles start coming out of his shoulder injury.
Yeah. Well, they're taking Spiky here to the Nemesis program. And I guess, did they take Mila there too? That was
No.
Okay.
She does not go to the Nemesis program.
Because they don't answer that because we're coming up to the end of the movie we talked about earlier. But I wondered that. Okay, thank you, Mikey, for clearing that up.
So then she wakes up in a coma, and her haircut is her haircut was amazing before, but now it's super cool because it's like half of it is shaved up, and I'm choosing to overlook the needles in her head.
The needles she has to rip out of her arm and stuff, that grossed me out.
And her skull. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah.
But her hair's really cool. And she's got this, it's a really weird hospital gown designed for maximum sexiness.
It's not a hospital gown. It is two big Post-it notes strapped to her front and back with like a huge, you can see everything. There's no reason to be wearing anything at this point.
It's like, what's the point? And it did remind me a little bit of The Fifth Element.
But this is male gaze, the hospital gown.
It is.
Yeah.
It exactly is. I wrote designed for maximum sexiness. But there's no one around, and it's a little bit like 28 Days Later.
I said that. I was like, this is a very 28 Days Later moment because when she picks the magnetic credit card style lock with a needle, which I don't think you can do.
Mila Jovovich can do it.
That's fair. I must have missed that day in secret spy school or whatever.
Yeah.
But she starts walking around in like the sexy hospital gown, and there's no one around. And it's very 28 Days Later as she's walking to the hospital. And then she walks out into the street, and you see the newspaper that says, "The Dead Walk."
Yeah, which is a nod to Dawn of the Dead. Or Day of the Dead.
As she's walking down the street, she finds a shotgun. You know, like one of the shotguns you find in the street. And this is how we know Raccoon City, even though it's a fictional city, is in America. Because there's a street shotgun. Yeah,
Guns aplenty.
It makes sense, right? And then you hear zombies, and like she's starting to have zombies closing around her, and you hear cock the shotgun, A Quiet Place style, and then
and then zooms out to see like the scale of all this.
Yes.
It's awesome.
It is so cool. And I was like, this is where I want the movie to start.
And that's the movie,
right?
And Todd, I've got some good news for you because there's a sequel.
I know. I can't wait.
I have a credits thing to talk about because I let the credits roll with the crappy music playing. They cut some dialogue from Michelle Rodriguez into the thing.
Yeah? Oh, yeah?
It's right at the end of the credits. She goes, "I think I'm going to get laid when I get out of here." Which
Really?
I don't remember her saying in the actual movie.
I don't think she said. And honestly, she's probably in studio doing some voiceover work, and she just happened to say that, and they caught it, and they were like, "We're using that." Yeah.
I think your house might be haunted, Mikey.
Ooh, by Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah.
A horny Michelle Rodriguez ghost.
Honestly, that's sort of the best kind, Mikey. You lucked out. Yeah. What do you guys think about this movie, having seen it and talked about it?
Dumb fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Same.
Yeah.
It's definitely the foundation that makes the rest of the movies happen.
I'm so excited for the rest of the movies because Mikey has said they're more Mikey movie than this movie, which I felt was already a Mikey movie. So I'm like excited that the next ones might be like House 2 level zombie insanity. And I am on board for it.
I will say, I believe they get to House 2 levels.
Yes,
of
I'm so
insanity.
excited. I am so excited about that.
I love it. I think it's really fun. It's like I had a hard time talking about it because I just kept getting elements of the plot mixed up because it feels so like repetitive in a way that just escalates every time,
Sure.
which I love. And so I apologize if we talked about anything out of order.
Yeah. I don't think anyone will notice.
I know.
I mean, that's why I love this whole franchise because it's like the definition of escapist. Like you can put this on, you can like text people, you can like do other things around the house, and like
Yeah.
it's just going on in the background and it's comforting because it's just like silly and fun and good action.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we've had several listeners that have commented that this is their comfort horror franchise. It's fun.
I'll say this is a great movie. It's a bad film. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's not good, but it's awesome. So let's do box office.
All right.
So what do you guys think the production budget was for this movie in 2002 when it came out?
I think 20 million.
Oh, you both said 20 million. Nice.
Uh-oh.
You're both 15 million off. It was $35 million dollars,
Okay.
which is a really big budget for a first time out video game movie.
This movie had buzz, man. I remember.
Yeah, it absolutely did. So what do you guys think it did in its opening weekend at the box office, which was March 15th, 2002?
40 million.
Yeah.
So you guys were a little high. It was $17 million.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
beat by
Ooh.
Ice Age that also came out that same week. And then a movie called Showtime that was also released that week was third. And then The Time Machine and We Were Soldiers were the top 5 that week. But Resident Evil was second, which I think is pretty good.
For a horror movie, yeah.
For this kind of horror movie, I think that's great. So how much do you think it made total box office domestically?
70 million.
80 million.
It didn't do quite that well domestically. It made 40 million.
How is it made? Why did all these sequels get made?
I'll explain that in a second, Mikey.
Yep.
So this movie made $40 million domestically, and then internationally it made $63 million, putting the total up at just over $100 million. It was like $103 million. Now, to answer your question, Mikey, about how do they keep making sequels for this, a trend with Resident Evil movies is it barely or even doesn't make its budget back domestically, but it makes a ton of money internationally. So the
Gotcha.
worldwide box office is way past the budget. Like, for instance, the last one that came out was in 2017. Its production budget was $40 million. It only made $26 million domestically, but internationally and domestic combined was $314 million. So this is one of those franchises that kills overseas.
Yeah, there's an article that I'm going to link talking about the directors. Like, how can he be this bad of a director and this successful, you know? And this is an example of a B or C franchise that just crushes it monetarily.
It
you
does
know?
amazing.
And I mean, there's a place for that. Like, people want to watch that kind of movie. They just may not go see it in the theaters, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's box office. Jen, do you have some fun facts for us?
I do have some fun facts.
Hit us with your fun facts.
All right, so this was based on the Japanese video game franchise by Capcom, which we already said the translation of it was Biohazard. And so the writer-director of this was Paul W.S. Anderson. And he went by Paul Anderson for a while until P.T. Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson, started becoming very popular, and he wanted to distinguish himself from that guy. Paul W.S. Anderson directed Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, he did.
That was like, that's what he was first known for.
Yeah.
He also directed Event Horizon and Alien versus Predator. So, like, he's got this, like, he's got a type, basically, you know. He's written and produced all of the sequels, and he directed about half of them. But I think, like, Mikey, where you're talking about, one of the things that makes this franchise so well is that Mila Jovovich kept coming back, and she's in all of them, and he's involved in all of them too. So it's like, as crazy as it is, like, there's a consistency in there.
It's tied together. It's not like,
Right.
oh, this is like the spin-off. It's
Exactly,
her
yeah,
story
yeah.
as it gets
Right.
more and more ridiculous.
They met, she and Paul W.S. Anderson met here, and they fell in love and they got engaged.
Oh.
And so a couple of this, I don't know how true this is, but I heard that a couple of sequels he did not direct is because they had broken up for a while,
no.
but they're back together now. They have 2 kids, and one of the kids plays the Red Queen child in one of the last movies.
Oh, wow,
I think.
that's awesome.
I know.
In the
isn't that
final
sweet?
chapter.
That's so cool. Yeah.
I know, and that's sweet.
That is
yeah.
great,
And
yeah.
I mean, that's part of why I think, like, they kept coming back too, is because it was really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think she has done much else, or at least I haven't seen much else that she's done. But if she's making that much money from it, you know, Like,
Right.
why not? Okay, so the sequels. So there are 5 sequels to this. I think there might be an animated spin-off series too, but I don't know very much about that. But the sequels, and I've got a bone to pick with these sequels.
Oh, do you?
The sequels are called, the first one is Resident Evil. The second one was Resident Evil: Apocalypse. The third one, Resident Evil: Extinction. Then Afterlife. Then Retribution. Then the final chapter. Okay, and here's my bone to pick. Other than the final chapter, I was like wanting to like watch these movies. I was like, okay, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole. I don't know what the fuck order to watch these movies in.
Right, because you would think Extinction would happen before Apocalypse, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I think Apocalypse would be the last.
Yeah.
I know. Okay. And I've got a lot of very strong opinions about what you title your sequels.
Yes.
Yeah, because I had to Google and like even tweet like what order am I supposed to fucking watch these in? Although the thing is it doesn't matter.
No, it
Release
doesn't.
order.
Yeah.
It does matter. It does matter.
does
I'm
it?
so sorry, Mikey. I'm so sorry. Excuse us.
She legit gets superpowers that carry on to one movie, and then she loses them 2 movies later.
That's a real Superman 1 kind of move right there.
Yep, man. And they all have had theatrical releases. Yeah,
Which means they're eligible for horror version episodes, guys.
that's right. All right. So we said Alice was the role created for these films. She's not in the movie, or she's not in the game. You don't learn her name until the end credits roll. They never say her name in the movie. So
Yeah.
you're justified in calling her the wife or not knowing what her name is.
Yeah.
So can you guess there? I have 2 people that were originally either offered the role or set to play.
Oh, man.
Oh, 2002.
Angelina Jolie.
That seems like the obvious one. No, that was not one. Of them.
Okay, that's my only guess.
I have Sarah Michelle Gellar.
What? Oh, I guess she was Buffy.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
What I've read, and again, like I don't know how true some of this stuff is, but apparently she was upset with the amount of nudity that you would have to have. You know.
Yeah.
And I think in the original script there was a lot more nudity that they ended up kind of cutting back. But I've read that this was offered to Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay,
Which-
that's a horrible casting, but I want to see that movie.
I do too, man.
This would be 5 years after Shakespeare in Love won Best Picture, and she like cleaned up at the Oscars, and to see that fall from Best Picture to this,
I know.
I'd love to
man.
see that cut of this movie, but I'm glad she's not in it.
Also,
Oh, that's
she
funny.
would be terrible.
That's what I mean. Like, it would be fun to watch, but it would not be good.
Right.
Yeah.
We would
Oh,
not have
yeah.
gotten the sequels.
Exactly. And I found a quote just because we just did Aliens. I found a quote about this that said from the New Yorker, and I'll link it, that described her, Alice, as a female action hero, unlike, say, Sigourney Weaver's character in Aliens or Linda Hamilton's character in Terminator 2, rarely seems to draw any motivation from her ovaries. Which I thought was funny.
All right, that's fair. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So this was the highest grossing film series based on a game.
Yeah.
And this is maybe one of the highest grossing horror games, I think.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me, although I did not know that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the older ones. Like, it's been around and established for a while.
It has. It's been around for a long
Yeah.
time.
Resident Evil came out when I was like in middle school.
All right, so George Romero was originally hired to write and direct.
Oh, man.
But his script was rejected. And I mean, like, this does not feel like Night of the Living Dead or like Dawn of the
Not
Dead.
at
Like,
all.
I feel like they went in the right direction. I haven't seen the original script. Apparently, it had similar aspects to where the franchise goes later. And I also read that a bunch of other scripts were written but rejected. And one of them might have been by Kevin Williamson. And this was like after all the Scream stuff in the 90s, so I could see that. So there are a couple of references to the game here. After returning to the laser hallway, all the bodies are gone. And also, like the elevator, we said, where's the head? The head disappears too. And that's a reference to the game.
All the bodies disappear. Yeah.
In the game, yeah. Mhm. Which, I mean...
They even talk about that in the movie. They even say, where'd the bodies go? Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. And I think that's also like a logistical like solution for the movie too. Then they don't have to deal with it. So there's a close-up shot of Alice's eye at one point, and that is the logo title screen of the game. Not her eye, because she doesn't exist in the game, but that style. All right, so Michelle Rodriguez is apparently a huge fan of this game, and she told her agent, and I think this came after maybe one of the Fast and the Furiouses, maybe one of the first ones.
I think it's the first one.
She told her agent that if anyone ever made a Resident Evil movie, she wanted to be in it. So that's how she got this role. Also having, like, she had been established as a known actor too, but she really wanted to be in it. And I love her character in this, you know?
Yeah, I think she does a great job with it.
Okay, so the dogs that they used were real dogs, and they would cover them with blood and meat. And apparently it was a big problem because the dogs kept trying to lick all that stuff off of themselves to eat it. They had a hard time shooting that.
The dogs are eating themselves.
They were, I know. Our pets' heads are falling off. All right. So there are some Alice in Wonderland references to this. Biggest one is the Red Queen.
Yeah.
And there's also a white rabbit they use for the test bunny. When they go through the mirrored doorway to enter the hive, that's like going through the looking glass. And the woman, the first victim that we really see dead, killed by the Red Queen, is decapitated. So that's the off with her head thing.
Okay.
Also, the character's name is Alice. So this was originally titled Resident Evil: Ground Zero, but they changed it because it came out in 2002, and that was after September 11th.
Good change.
Yeah.
Good change. Yeah.
It's a good change. Used to be shit house.
Exactly. That's why I was referencing.
Is that what you think?
Absolutely.
Nice.
It's a good change.
That's such a good movie.
It is.
Okay, my last one. Mila Jovovich did all of her own stunts in this movie, except when they're jumping onto the pipe, and her agent was afraid she would get caught, like her neck would get caught on those wires. But she did everything else. The wall dog kick thing took 3 months of training for her to do. But apparently that's part of the reason that she wanted, like, she had a lot of fun learning about all this stuff to do these stunts, and that's part of why she kept
really
coming
cool.
back.
Yeah,
I know,
and honestly,
dude.
she's really good at this stuff.
She really is. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, like, her acting quality. Like, she's really not given that much acting to do.
No,
so
she
it's
really
hard
isn't.
to really know.
Yeah.
But she's awesome. All of the bruises and cuts and scrapes you see on her were real. They didn't put any makeup on her to do any of that. So she's just
That
like,
almost makes me feel bad for her. Like, but that's awesome. I mean, yeah.
it is. Yeah, it's so cool. And those are my fun facts.
Well, thank you for your fun facts, Jen.
Thank you for the fun facts.
Welcome.
So let's do that scary scale, Jen.
All right. Hey, listeners, our scary scale is a scale we use to rank how scary we thought the movie was. It's not a ranking of the quality of the movie. It's how scared we were today when we watched it. Our 1 example is Ghostbusters. Our 10 example is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right, Todd, what are you ranking Resident Evil?
I'm going to give it a 3.
All right.
It was scary, but the tone of it tones that down for me. Like,
Yeah.
if this was like a more serious type shot movie, it would have been much, much higher. But because it feels like a video game, I'm going to give it a 3. But there were some moments that I literally jumped because there are a lot of jump scares in this.
Agreed. Mikey?
I'm going to give it a 1.
All right.
That's probably more appropriate.
I'm going to give it a 2.
Okay.
Mostly because of the elevator beginning montage and the wire grossness, like the laser thing grossed me out. But yeah, it's not overall scary. And it's like what you were saying, the tone helps temper down the scares a lot. And it's just the fact that the stakes never seem particularly high.
Yeah.
You're not like super empathizing with a lot of these characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's our scary scale.
All right. Well, this week you guys made me watch Resident Evil. What are you guys making me watch next week?
Well, Todd, we're making you watch the giant sequel, Conjuring 2, which I think is scarier than the first one.
Really?
I'm actually kind of scared to watch it by myself.
Oh, man. So The Conjuring was very scary. Do you think it's scarier than that one?
I do. I really do.
Oh, God. All right. Well, we'll see. So, guys, watch The Conjuring 2 for next week, where we continue the saga of the Warrens, right, Mikey?
Yeah. Ed and Lorraine, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, let's watch that for next week. That is your homework, guys. So watch The Conjuring 2. So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
Oh, no, I don't.
Well, while you're looking for one, let me tell them how they can have their review read on the podcast. And that is simply to leave us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes and, actually like write a text review and give Mikey something to have fun with. So give him an accent or just some silly stuff to be silly. And then Mikey will be silly while he's reading your 5-star review. Mikey, you got a review for us?
I do. Man, there's been a lot this week.
Yeah, we
Hold
got
on.
a bunch.
This one is from Undecided Username.
Oh.
This podcast is amazing. It is the reason I now like and actually appreciate horror movies.
Oh, same.
The group does a good job of analyzing the movies pretty fairly with some silly banter and deep conversations in between.
I think that's a good summation of the podcast.
That's
Absolutely.
pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. There are some movies that I couldn't watch. Thanks, Eli Roth.
Oh, yeah, same.
Yeah.
But I was still able to listen to the episodes and enjoy the opinions
Oh,
of
nice.
3 very kind, silly people. Thanks for bringing a little joy and humor to my workday, and thanks for actually giving my partner and I something to do on a Friday night during a pandemic. Always think of others and wear a mask.
Oh, wait, is that how they ended their review, or is
That's
that?
how they ended their review.
I love it. That's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Undecided Username, for that awesome 5-star review. And guys, if you want to have your review read on the podcast, leave us that 5-star review and have Mikey read it on the podcast. All right, guys, we are a member of the Consequence Podcast Network. So if you would do us a favor and check out their awesome shows. Also check out their blog at Consequence of Sound. They do a lot of movie, but also music reviews too. So if you're like in this Venn diagram of loving movies and music, it is sort of the best place to be online. So if you want to follow our shit, go to horrorvirgin.com to get links to our merch store and awesome stuff like that, so you can represent the HV awesomeness in the real world. And if you want to follow us on social, we are at Horror Virgin, and you can follow us all individually. And Jen is at Jen Ferratu with 2 N's. Mikey's at M Randolph24, and I am at Todd with 2 D's. J Awesome.
I don't know why I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And if you want to help financially support the show, please do by going to patreon.com/horrorvirgin, where we literally have hours and hours of free bonus content for you to enjoy. We got bonus episodes. We got director's cut with extra long episodes and ad free that come out a day early. There's a great
Now, it's not
exclusive content.
technically free.
Oh,
because
shit.
you
Did I
have
say
to
free?
pay
I
for
was
it.
going to say that.
Sorry. Yeah, that's on me.
It's free content once you pay for
Right.
it.
But once
Yeah.
you pay for it, there's a lot to access.
Yeah, sorry. That's what I
think
meant
it's what
to
you
say.
mean. Yeah.
But the free content that is daily is in our Facebook group. So if you're looking for that daily free content, you want to join that Facebook group. That's almost 1,000 members. Like, we are closing
I
in.
know.
It's so exciting. I'm super excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And guys, that's going to be it for us,
Yeah.
everybody. I'm Jen.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, guys.
Mwah-ha-ha-ha-ha.
Have an amazing week and stay safe and wear your mask and do all those things.
Bye. Red Queen nerds.
That's what she said.
What? Why would she have
Y'all
said
gonna-
that?